As the weeks and months go on, more and more easy trophy games keep getting added to the PlayStation Store, and as more get added, I'll keep talking about them. So for this time around, I'm going to be talking about 10 more extremely easy platinums you can get now on the PlayStation 4. There may have been a few games I have missed over the last few months as I've been a little bit out of the loop, so be sure to inform me down in the comments below on which ones I haven't talked about yet in any of my previous lists. So without further ado though guys, here is Volume 8 of 10 easy platinums you can get on the PlayStation 4. First up is Suicide Guy. This is a first-person perspective puzzle game where you're playing as a poor guy who has to kill himself in each one of the game's levels. Every level is a different setup, some of which are parodies of media and other video games, and overall the game is harmless fun, though it is a little bit on the offensive side just in the name and overall goal of each level. The game itself, though, is pretty short, taking only a couple of hours. There are plenty of guides available, and currently the average completion is 92%, with 480 people being able to get the platinum out of 561 people playing the game. Every one of these lists, I always include the latest of the Artifex Mundi games that have been released, the hidden object picture games that I'm actually a big fan of. They've recently raised the price from $9.99 a piece to $14.99 a piece, in which case I really can't recommend checking them out. As much as I do enjoy them, they're really not worth that price tag, so I really haven't been covering the last few releases, though Nightmares from the Deep 3 and Enigmatis 3 are two of the latest ones, so if you're looking for those easy platinums and you enjoy hidden object games, there are plenty of them still being released on the PlayStation 4, and they're just as easy as far as platinums are concerned. I'm not seeing any ones that have been coming out lately that are completely glitched or bugged out or adding anything really out of the ordinary as far as these games are concerned, so if you're looking for easy platinums, the hidden object games from Artifex Mundi are always an easy one to get. Zeus Quest Remastered is a simple point-and-click adventure game that's been slightly updated from its original release to this PS4 release, though honestly it's really not a whole lot to look at. It reminded me a bit of Demetrios, which I played last year, and it's another very easy platinum, in fact even easier than that title was, taking roughly about an hour and a half in order to play through it. So far, of everyone who has played the game, and there's only currently 137 owners, 122 have gotten the platinum, taking about an hour and a half in order to get it. While maybe a bit more involved than some of the other games on this list, Timothy vs. the Aliens is an open-world sandbox game done on a very small scale. The world is a black and white film noir aesthetic, and overall is an enjoyable one to explore and platform through. The game lacks a bit in the variety department and is a really short experience, and that's why it ends up making onto this list, because even if you take your time and go through it, it'll probably only take you about 6 hours at the most in order to get through and get the platinum along the way, and if you rush it, probably about 2 hours. I enjoy a good puzzle game, and Metropolis Lux Obscura is a fun match-3 puzzle game that has an adult theme to it. It's set in a gritty city. You're playing as an ex-convict who was framed for a crime, and now you're trying to find out who framed you for that crime. The way you deal with all the thugs, killer dogs, and other miscreants throughout the game is through the match-3 puzzle system that actually is pretty fun to play. The game, unfortunately, though, is pretty short, but if you're a puzzle fan as well as a platinum hunter, you'll be able to get through this one pretty quickly and probably have a pretty enjoyable time doing it. Embers of Mirrim is a very colorful platformer game where you're playing as a creature who has both light and dark abilities and being able to use both in order to traverse the game's many levels. You'll have to rescue other characters throughout, and the overall platforming is quite enjoyable throughout the game's relatively short experience. The platinum itself is straightforward, mostly just having you completing the game's levels and saving the various characters throughout. The game itself will probably only take a couple of hours in order for you to get through, and for those who are really good at platformers, probably less than 2, and you'll have yourself a platinum. If you jump onto the PlayStation Store looking for a new theme to spice up your dashboard, you may notice that one company puts out a ton of different themes. This same company has put all of them together into a playable game called Briks. I played the original, and now there's a sequel, Briks 2, that's available, and it's just as easy of a platinum as the first one was. It's basically just a breakout game, with a few different variables thrown in to make the game at least somewhat interesting to play, even ends up being a bit on the expensive side as far as being able to actually own a copy of it. However, if you're a fan of brick-breaking games and random backgrounds and themes that you can buy on the PlayStation Network, well, you may end up enjoying Briks and Briks 2 that are both easy platinums and available now on PS4. Midnight Deluxe is kind of like a mini golf game where you have a small square that you're trying to launch into a hole. There's a lot of different hazards that are going to try to stop you from doing this, and your goal is to try to do it in the least amount of turns possible. The game has a lot of levels, though you only have to complete a small amount of them in order to get this game's platinum, probably taking you roughly about an hour in order to do so. Midnight Deluxe, though, overall is actually a little bit of a fun little game, and it won't end up breaking your bank in order to get this plat. From the creators of Midnight Deluxe, we have 36 Fragments of Midnight. While I thought Midnight Deluxe was simple but kind of enjoyable, 36 Fragments of Midnight really isn't that enjoyable at all. It's a very simple platformer where your goal is to collect 36 objects and then get back to the starting point. There's a few hazards, it is randomly generated, though it's the same setups, just kind of repeated over and over again in a different order each time that you start the game. But the good thing is, the game's only going to take you a couple of minutes in order to grab these objects and beat it, and while you may have to play it a couple of times and die a few times for some trophies, you'll probably end up getting the platinum in an hour or less. Before we get to number 1, we're going to talk about a couple of honorable mentions. First up is Candleman. Now, this is a 3D puzzle platformer game that will be coming to North America soon, but unfortunately is currently only available on the Xbox One in North America, as well as in the Hong Kong and Asian markets. The game has you playing as a candle, and your goal is to traverse the game's many different levels. The story itself is actually a little bit on the sad side as you make it farther in, and the overall design of the levels, while I wasn't sure what to think at first, quickly ended up drawing me in, and Candleman has quickly become one of my favorite games I have played this year. And the good thing is, while the game is a bit longer than some of the other titles I've talked about in this video, it still won't end up taking you too long in order to get that platinum, and it's a pretty fun game to play through. Another game that's currently available both physically and digitally in North America, but is a bit more involved than some of the other games I've talked about on this list, is Cat Quest. Here you're playing as a cute, anthropomorphic night cat, exploring a land and going through many different dungeons, and going through a variety of quests that basically boil down to fetch quest and killing a handful of enemies and then repeating the process, but the game has enough charm to it to make the few hours that it takes to get through it to be at least a somewhat enjoyable one. Cat Quest may not be the best game out there, but if you're looking for a relatively fun little action hack and slash, Cat Quest may be up your alley. A lot of the games on this list weren't that bad to play through. Even 36 Fragments of Midnight, which really didn't give a whole lot as far as gameplay was concerned, at least wasn't offensively bad as a game. Little Adventures on the Prairie, however, is one of the absolute worst games I've had the disprivilege of playing on the PlayStation 4. It's up there with Orc Slayer, Soul Brain, and Spear of Destiny as far as being just an absolute mess of a title that shouldn't even be allowed to be on the store. This game's also available on the Nintendo 3DS, so if you want double the fun, you can get it on there. So buy it on PS4, PlayStation Vita, and Nintendo 3DS to get the trifecta of one of the absolute worst games that has ever been created. I honestly, though, want to know more about it. Why is it called Little Adventures on the Prairie? Why does this knight have blue hair? Where did he even come from? How do you even make something so broken and put it up? I guess at least for us, as trophy hunters, at least we can get an easy platinum out of it. So there you have it, guys, another easy list of platinums that you can get now on the PlayStation 4. A lot of these games have multiple lists in different regions. A lot of them also have cross-buy, or at least have versions available on PS4 and Vita. Little Adventures on the Prairie is one of those games that charges you for both PS4 and Vita, so you may not want to go after that one right away, but at least some of the other ones on this list you can get cross-buy and get multiple platinums for your hard work of going after some of these trophies. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, be sure to let me know down in the comments on some games that maybe I just have missed or I haven't talked about on any of the previous volumes. Thank you so much though for watching this video and supporting my channel, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.